Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read Along podcast, the semi-weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We just finished Umineko episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch, so we're going to look back on the episode as a whole and take a look at some of the community comments and theories. So join us as we open up this message bottle and see what interpretation of the tale lies within. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli, Ben, Hayley, and Becca. Welcome, y'all. So, what did you think of episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch?
I like it.
I enjoyed it.
Definitely one of the stronger episodes.
I thought it was good.
Spoilers, Capelli, because we have an episode ranking at some point in this recording.
Yeah, the story I like continues to be good. More at 7.
Who could have seen that coming?
We'll see if Hayley's is a reverse of that.
I thought this was good. I was not blown away by it like I hoped I would be.
That's fair.
But I also kind of wanted something a little bit more concrete than what we got.
Yeah, that's fair.
And since we didn't get that, we just got more puzzles we need to solve.
I'm getting the vibe that that's not going to change even at the end of episode 8.
Yeah.
Depending on the degrees of answers you expect.
Yeah.
But we are wrapping up episode 6, so we're entering in the answers arc, the part I consider the true answers arc, very soon.
Eventually. We'll get there.
Yeah, right.
The real answers arc is when you get to go to the Wikipedia afterwards and be like, what the fuck? That's what that meant? No.
I'm just ready to look at the memes unabashedly.
There are some good ones.
I want to know what the author's perspective is on all of this to see if I am way off base.
Yeah, I really look forward to reading some of Ryu's interviews.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely given at least one pretty good one that's one you kind of need to read to understand some stuff that's outside of the text itself.
Cool.
So we'll definitely get there.
That alone bogs me that you need to read something else in order to understand.
I mean, it's no different from having a mystery novel and then afterward listening to an interview that the author talks about their inspirations and what their motivations were, why they're creating things. It just recontextualizes, this is what they had in mind when they were creating this theme and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not a...
Yeah, no, so that's what I was looking forward to.
Yeah. There's definitely... We're going to be getting more into episodes 7 and 8 where they talk more about why the story is structured the way it is. Some of the themes that are really important to understanding why this is the way it is come out a lot in episode 8.
You tell me there's a reason that there's a certain number of Twilights? It sounds like a yes!
I'm not even sure, honestly. I'll have to think about that one. Becca, how did you enjoy the episode?
It was very good. Very enlightening. There are still certain things about it that I'm like, was this a red herring or was this a genuine clue? And I don't really know the answer to that. I still really think the whole saying everyone else is in the other room is important for some reason, but I still don't exactly know why. And I don't know if it matters anymore because we know that Cannon is the one who traded places with Battler, stuff like that. But I did enjoy the final reveal. And despite all of my misgivings about Zephyr and Furfur's logic about only one pair of lovers deserving to find actual everlasting true love, I don't know. That whole competition and the result of it supposedly determining who takes Battler's place seems important to me. But again...
Well, we'll see as we kind of discuss it more in this episode. Maybe some of his thoughts will crystallize a bit.
Yes, just lots of thoughts with no real coherent direction for them. So we'll see what we can suss out right now.
Sus.
All right. Well, this is a message bottle episode. So as anyone who follows this podcast knows, that means we have to do our favorite and least favorite characters as of finishing this episode.
Yeah, I'll go first. So on top of a favorite and least favorite list, I also have a list of characters I'm just ready to see more of. So favorites has really continued not to change for me. I put Beatrice / Battler.
Now that's a theory.
As much as no, not the same person. Though.
Yes, that is a great theory. And it's a thought I've had.
The thought has crossed my mind. That weird flashback we get to someone seeing Battler talk about his ideal woman being everything that Beatrice is, when he was younger. I was like, is this all just some sort of schizophrenic episode? And that's this whole fucking game would be insane. No, Beatrice is fantastic. Battler is really good. but they're at their best when they are on screen together, either as adversaries or as partners. So it's just really hard to narrow down just a simple top 3 for me. So I put the 2 of them together. Beato's furniture, but not the sisters. Virgilia, Gap, and Runaway. Like I love them all for different reasons. But again, they are best when they're all on screen together. They foil each other super well, but Runaway is still my favorite of the 3, followed closely by Gap, especially with her scene at the wedding, in the wedding hall.
Yeah.
Just like, God, they're so fucking cool. And I just love the way that their dialogue is written. I love their character designs. I love their personalities. I love their coy, like, we know what's going on, but we can't really say, but you're doing great, champ. That whole vibe. I love it. And then the only standalone slot, and I struggle to pick this one, is probably Shannon.
Okay.
The only character outside of Battler who I feel has had a character arc throughout the progress of the story, which is tough with what you have essentially as a Groundhog Day time loop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the way that they've peeled back more and more about her character and kind of the resolution that she has come to at the start of day 1, right? And the more we learned about her, the conversation she's had, even when you recontextualize the fact that everything they do just has to be plausible with their character, not that that happened, but plausibly, she is fighting super hard for what she wants, and she also really supports her brother, and even despite doing that, could make it harder for her to get what she wants. Like, that is just a level of self-sacrifice and support and somebody you care about. And just, she's awesome. And I think she was on my least favorite list after episode 1, and I just love what the author has done with her. She's great. I love her quote-unquote magical abilities, how she uses them to protect people that she loves. She's awesome. Least favorites, Erica / Burncastle, the same way that Beatrice and Battler do better when they're on scene together. Erica and Burn are fucking at their worst when they're with each other.
Yeah.
Like, Erica has like these fleeting moments of potential redemption, but you put her on Burncastle and it's just like, no, absolutely not. She refuses it. She will do anything for Burn's acceptance, but they're total pieces of shit, and I don't like them at all. The 7 sisters, I haven't done anything to make me like them at all, and I don't think they'll get the opportunity to do so. I think they're bland. I think you've got 7 people with very similar visual aesthetics, so differentiating them is extremely difficult for me. I don't like them. They come across as a group of 7 teenage girls, and it does not appeal to me. But it's not supposed to, I think. So I don't care. And then lastly is Rosa, who's just a terrible person and a horrible mother.
That remains to be true.
And I don't need to say any more than that. Rosa just fucking sucks.
That makes sense to me.
Characters I'm ready to see more of are Genji. He was by far in my top 3 in episodes 1 and 2. And then he just, like, brothers consistently gets killed off every time since then. It's just like, I want to see more of this clearly stone cold badass who has a heart of gold. And then my next is Nanjo, who obviously there's way more to the story and mystery with him, especially considering his death in episode 3. And then you've got Rudolph and Kraus. Even though you kind of get a little bit more of them in this episode, it's hard to gauge how much of that is genuinely them and how much of that is them thinking they're pulling the wool over Erica's eyes. Rudolph has some sort of big secret about Battler. In episode 1, he's like, I'm going to die, and we still have not gotten any insight into that. Kraus, I just want to be vindicated when I say Kraus is a good dude. You know, I think there's a time in his life when he wasn't a good dude, but I think he's a good guy now. I think he's a fantastic father to Jessica and trying to balance the family expectations with wanting her to just live her life. Yeah. I want that vindication. That's my list, and I'm sticking to it.
Good list. Hayley.
Me. So Kumasawa is one of my favorites. Has been, will continue to be. I actually think she did it, as you may or may not have heard me say before, and still love her. I just think that there are real moments where her whole personality shines through, and I think it's brilliant. I did tie Kumasawa with the seagulls because I have to at this point. If I don't mention them in my favorites list, like, what even is Umineko if it's not about seagulls?
It's true.
I mean, it's literally what it's called, so I have to mention them. Beato is up there. Always has been, always will be, I think. Wait, I don't know. I don't discriminate against killers, I suppose.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Is this all forms of Beato or a specific version of her?
Interesting question.
Oh, all forms. She is one. Like, you can't, I don't know. I don't think of them as separate. Yeah, they're all the same.
I want to say more, but
They're all parts of her. And then I have a 4-way tie. I kept adding more onto it between Maria, Battler, Amakusa, and Asmu. Now,
That's a good list.
those last two would probably fall into Capelli's characters I'm ready to see more of. I think Amakusa has more that we, given like the end of what was going on in episode 6, I think there's more that's going to be revealed there. I just really want to understand who the matriarch of this Ishiromir family was as well. Like, I want to know more about Asmu. I feel like that would reveal a lot. That would give me a lot more insight into motives and stuff that's going on. Yeah. And I don't know, there's always been something about Maria that I've really liked, but I don't know if it's because of pity, I suppose, in a way. Like, she is the littlest child in this, essentially. And she, other than Angie, who we don't see till later, till she's more of a teenager, I don't know, I feel bad for this situation that she's been put in. I feel like that about all of them, to be honest. I do feel a lot of empathy for every single one of them, except for Kinzo. But that's probably, again, because I don't know enough about him.
Yeah.
And we know how he became the head of the family, but I don't actually know anything about what formed his personality and who he is and who he was when he became the head of the family. So maybe I would have some empathy for him as well. But as of now, do not, because I've not seen it. Yeah, I think that's probably it. My favourites: Kumasawa and the Seagulls, Beato, Maria, Battler, Amakusa, Asmu. But mostly because I'm curious about those last two. Yeah, and Battler's grown on me. Battler would never have made my top 3 in the first couple. I don't know. I don't even know why he's grown on me, really. I really can't define it.
He's been there the whole time, basically.
Perseverance and competence are admirable qualities.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think the red, you are incompetent?
I don't know. I still don't think he's competent.
He's gotten competent by persevering.
Do you still think he's incompetent?
Yes. Well, yeah, Battler's incompetent, but I do like...
I mean, he got to the gold truth, and maybe Canon technically had to rescue him out of that room, but...
What the fuck is the golden truth, though?
I don't know, but he did it.
Well, first thing I'll tell you, Ben, is without love, it cannot be seen. So get your facts.
Yeah.
Second, it's hard to see him go from end of episode 5, where he figures it out, to being locked in this fucking room in episode 6. Like, what the hell?
Absolutely.
He did it to protect Beato. I know.
Yeah, we'll have some stuff to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not saying he is a very good person to have grown on you. I like Battler, and he is not in my bottom 3. Spoilers. But I cannot in any good conscience call him competent.
No, agreed. I think I love him. I don't know why. I do think I wouldn't particularly... I think it would be the same as if I met him in real life. I wouldn't like him when I first met him, but I grew to understand him.
Okay.
I would maybe start to tolerate him and then eventually actually like him.
Can I ask you a question, Hayley?
Go on.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that episode 1, he does weird, creepy breast groping jokes, and he has basically stopped doing that?
No, I don't think so.
No?
There's growth there.
That's a big thing for me, is he stopped being a fucking creep.
I don't know that he has stopped being a creep. We just don't see it because, like, life is different now.
I think he's grown up.
Honestly.
He's grown up.
I don't know. Has he? We've got no evidence of that. He's been through some shit. Doesn't mean he's grown up.
I do think there's a case to be made that he has grown and matured and gotten more competent over the course of this series. And also, there is a part of me that thinks that potentially, like, I mean, it's kind of silly to think this because I feel like every time I've thought this in the past, it's been proven wrong, and no, he actually was just that stupid. But there is a part of me that thinks him getting trapped in that locked room and then having to switch with Canon was almost on purpose. And we just don't know why yet. But
we're going to talk about that for sure.
Yeah. I think you're probably right there. I've had that same thought as well, Becca. I don't know. But that's still, for me, Beato saying Battler is incompetent is not just a red truth, it's a gold truth and a blue truth. It is just universally true. Regardless of how competent he ends up being, he will always be incompetent in my heart.
That I can accept.
That's got to be some sort of a tagline of our episodes. He'll always be incompetent in my heart.
And I get like a birthday card with that written on it. Like, you'll always be incompetent in my heart.
Maybe we should do t-shirts. Oh dear. All right, least favorites. Unsurprisingly, Burncastle and Erica. Cannot stand them. Again, I probably do feel a little bit sorry for them, but they've just got no, I don't know. They don't seem to have the introspection or even the desire to be better. There's no desire for them to be better. I think almost everybody else, there's at least some kind of hint of, hey, I want to be a better person. I've not seen that from either of these. I think maybe we did briefly for Erica, but then it was immediately dismissed by the way she was talking about her ex in that relationship. I think it was just kind of, I don't know, there was something there that switched her around again. And then my third and final, actually, is probably my most least favorite, is just Ushiramiya, the entire family. This is everybody. It encapsulates all characters. I think the family is a heaping trash pile, and it's probably a good thing that Kumasawa did what she did.
I think that's a good point, that I think Shiramiya, part of the family, is like the problematic aspect of it. A lot of the individuals maybe have some, you can see there's some growth and some kindness to them, but like as a family, they're especially dysfunctional, and because of their family name.
Exactly. Yeah, you get it. Yeah, exactly. All of those people together, those personalities together, absolute steaming trash fire. It's horrible.
Yeah. I will also say that if you look at like what Natsui has gone through, we don't even get to see Natsui's real personality except for some of episode 1, but most of it is overshadowed by the fact that she is so bought in to the Ashuramiya like lifestyle and like making sure that everything goes.
She's been indoctrinated.
Yeah, she's been indoctrinated, so you don't really even get to see that. But you look at like Hideyoshi and Kyrie, both have their own personalities, and both are like side next to the Ashurmiyas, but like they both stand out as better characters better people within the character realm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I see that. I think that's it. I think that's my top and bottom.
Thank you.
All right. Kyrie, top character by no small margin. Kyrie has always been one of my top characters. I love her character archetype, and I love like the smart girl detective like character in almost anything I read. Carries over from different Danganronpa series, I think. Then we got Dr. Nanjo. No surprise there. I still love the guy.
He's like barely in this episode.
And that's okay. That's all right. He does exactly what he needs to do, and that's be in my heart.
Well, that's fair. Remaining untainted by whatever happens, sometimes that's good enough.
Yeah, there has been nothing for me to make him want to go lower. It's only been good. He's the real protagonist, in my opinion. And then I almost didn't have a third. I almost just left it as Kyrie and Nanjo and left with it because I don't love most of the other characters, but I think Angie continues to be up there for me as just an interesting character with an interesting perspective. She's kind of removed from the Ashuramiya bloodline in a sense, and I would not include Angie when Hayley said the Ashuramiya period as one of her least favorite. I would never include Angie in that, even though she has that last name, because it's just such a step away from what the Angie that we know now and what she's currently dealing with. And she continues to help push the story forward in her own weird timeline, which I just think is very neat. And I love her perspective on things. So I love seeing things with her.
Makes sense.
Ben, it's funny you say that because I don't think of her as an Ashuramiya either. And I assume it's maybe because, she was raised by Eva. But not really, because they kept their distance. I was going to say, because I think she was not raised Ashuramiya.
She wasn't raised by... I see what you mean. Raised by Eva after the tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
After everybody died, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's not been as ingrained.
Well, I almost feel like the world after the tragedy isn't the Ashuramiya anymore, because part of the Ashuramiya is that they're all still, together and that they're fighting over this one big inheritance and they're all playing off each other. And when it goes from 19 to 2, or I guess it would be 14 to 2 if we're not including servants and whatnot, it's, in my opinion, it's not the same Ashuramiya family. Least favorites, Featherin. I don't like her. I have gotten really weird vibes, and especially at the end of episode 6 She is really showing her true colors now, and that's to be the next BBEG, the next big bad, because we just keep stepping up. We go from Beatrice to to Lambda Delta to Burn Castle to Featherin. Like, it just keeps going up in terms of we have to keep upping the ante, and she's the next new one. And I'm just kind of tired of it at this point. But she's also the one that apparently taught Burn Castle things, so we'll see. Even in all the sections that she was having Angie read for her, it felt so smug.
How do you feel about her compared to Hachijo? Or do you consider that a distinction worth making?
Hachijo's more realistic, because I know she's not Hachijo, the character that Angie meets in her timeline, is not necessarily a witch, just more of a reclusive author. And I find that character to be more interesting because the reclusive author is not what we've seen before. The all-powerful witch that's behind the scenes of everything we've seen 3 times already.
Okay.
I don't know. It just doesn't have the same effect this 4th time, I guess.
Well, that's fair.
Maria continues to be one of my least favorites. Still find her annoying. Still find her that she hasn't found enough character growth for me to care about the fact that she's okay with her family dying. And I know that she's probably dealing with a lot of things, but I don't know. And then my least favorite number 3 are the goats. As a furry, I'm very sad to see that the goats have no personality and that they really have no value here for me, even though they are hot. I just wish that
they had some personality in episode 4, but again, that was all fake, so it is.
That's all fake. Where is that personality?
Ben, you have 2 types. You're into Nanjos and you're into goat men, I guess.
See, you understand me. Thank you.
That's the sexual binary, yeah.
I won't yuck your yum, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate
love it.
And if you want to yuck my yum in the comments, don't. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, sir.
Ben, I love you for this. This is the greatest list I think you've ever come up with for me.
Okay, should I go now?
Yeah, Becca, please. What is your favorites?
All right. So starting it off with Delanor.
Good choice.
I think she is so interesting. And she hasn't she's one of those characters, she's almost like a plot device, which we've seen plenty of those kinds of characters. And she really jumped out, in the earlier episode when she's first introduced. Is she only introduced in Ep 5? Because that's when Erica comes in, right? Yeah.
Yep, she shows up in 5.
So last episode, in episode 5, that scene in the Golden Land in the Rose Garden with catatonic Beato, I still think about that all the time. And I do really enjoy that she is a character with this specific purpose and mission, but she also doesn't let that define her or cloud her judgment. She still has this independent view of what she does and what is acceptable to her and what she'll turn a blind eye to in terms of quote unquote magic and stuff. So it shows that even though I feel like she's an example that in this story of a lot of characters who feel like they are forced into certain roles, and this goes for a lot of the human characters, even all the Ushiramiyas, forced into certain roles and they have to do things a certain way. She is the one character in the story that has, besides maybe Beato, who has this independence about her, and she doesn't let the fact that she is essentially a plot device define her. I feel like maybe we've gotten all we're ever gonna get of her in terms of depth, but even if we don't get anything else, I think she's been really interesting. So I love continuing to see her, and I love that she is she also clearly has a vested interest in who she wants to kind of win in the argument a little bit, or at least she seems to. So, and the one other thing I wanted to put on this, because I pointedly did not put Erica in my least favorite characters this time because I like watching Erica.
Fair.
And the other part of Delanor that I like is I like Delanor and Erica together a lot. I think that dynamic is really interesting, and Delanor shows Erica something that she didn't know existed and allows for Erica to even approach having any kind of growth or see that things could be different. And so even though Erica's kind of an irredeemable asshole, I don't hate her. I don't hate watching her. I enjoy watching her, and I like her and Delanor together a lot. Another favorite is Angie still, even though she kind of takes a backseat in this episode. I like that she is reintroduced. I like that there is some new puzzle to figure out with her now because she's being rerouted from what we know of what happens to her.
Yeah.
And she is aware of it. So that's really interesting. But I love, I stay loving Angie. And last but not least, no one is surprised. Beato is still up here. All versions of Beato, much like Hayley said, they are all one entity. To me, they all share the essence of Beato. And I am very intrigued to find out more of like these halves of her and what's going on there. So yeah, no surprises here. I feel like this has been fairly consistent for me for a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're all just great. And so least favorites are more like I struggled for what to put here because even the characters that I like quote unquote hate or I think are unrepentant assholes, much like Erica, a lot of them are still really entertaining to me.
Sure.
And I like how they serve the story. So I don't dislike them. I don't like, they're not a least favorite. So I was kind of like, okay, who are kind of like non-entities to me that are boring and that I don't really enjoy engaging with. And the first one is Kraus. I think I have said as much about him before, not surprising. And I don't know, he's just stupid and he sucks. I think Natsui is too good for him. I think Jessica is too cool for him. I think everyone deserves better. And it would take a lot of heavy lifting and a lot more information and for him to do a lot more for me to really like care about him at all.
So valid.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that this episode gets cut so short because like this could have been the episode where a lot of the men that we don't have great opinions of could have gotten to shine. And it's just, unfortunately, that's just not what this episode was.
Yeah. Like plenty of time for my mind to get changed about that, but I just don't imagine that it will. And then we have Kasumi, Kurie's mob sister. She's coming for my girl Angie. She wasn't even in this episode. This is why I had to like really dig for like least favorites.
We haven't seen her for 2 whole episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I really had to dig for people I dislike.
Mm-hmm. Although she did get brought up.
Kasumi.
She got brought up at the very end with the phone call with Amakusa. So,
And that's what I was thinking about. I was like, maybe I put the guy who was making the phone call to Amakusa, but then I was like, no, it's not really him. He's doing it on Kasumi's orders. So,
well, no, actually, that's Okanogi, which is the president of the Ushirimiya group.
oh right, he's Ava's. Yeah, he's Ava's.
Ava's,
guy.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure.
Interesting. Well, yeah, we'll fuck Okanogi then. Him too. Kasumi and
That's fair.
Okanogi can be the same spot. Because that just genuine. I couldn't remember his name, but that is genuinely what I was thinking when I put Kasumi down. And then my last one is Featherine, and that's really more just because like a lot of the same stuff that Ben was saying is pretty much the same for me. Like in terms of, I guess, like if we are going up the ladder, she is the next big bad. She has been casually mentioned to be like way more fearsome and have done a lot worse shit than Burncastle. She's so old. She has a halo of a memory device around her head in her character design. So she's been around for centuries, millennia, whatever. What's bigger than millennia? You know, if we are going by like witches have to stave off boredom by entertaining themselves with these stories all the time, I mean, she would be the biggest offender of that, right? So that means Beato's entire plight is because of Featherine on some level, which I don't like. But also, I feel like she hasn't done enough yet for me to find her like super interesting. We just get these vague allusions to like,
she's kind of a one-note character, right?
Yeah.
Like she serves the purpose as being like she thinks she has an answer, and she also can answer Angie's questions. And then she doesn't really do a lot. And then at the very end, we get like maybe she's evil, but also that turn is kind of expected. So it's not like, she's a bit functional right now. We'll see how she is in later stuff. Yeah,
she may become a lot more interesting very quickly, but at the moment, she's just kind of a very like one-note introduction.
Also, same thing I asked Ben about how do you consider her compared to her counterpart, Hachijo?
And maybe, I don't know if maybe you want to talk about this later if we get more into stuff about this. So the separation between her and Hachijo, I'm trying to kind of understand.
Yeah, we can talk about it more later.
Yeah, maybe that's something if we talk about that in depth altogether. I do think there's a separation there. To give you like a short answer, I don't know that I fully understand what it is yet.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Those are some excellent lists.
Yeah, we didn't have a ton of overlap this time, which is nice.
Yeah, it was a pretty good spread, actually. And also different reasons for why characters are different things. That it was a good set of reasons to like and dislike different characters. All right, the other segment that we always do in these episodes is the ranking of the episodes, the story arcs, now 1 through 6. Capelli, where do you place episode 6 in your ranking, or have your feelings of the whole thing changed?
No, my feelings have not changed. I mean, I was saying before that it's hard for me to really create a preference list at all because the story is
Fair.
overall pretty good, pretty consistent, I think is what I would say. I think, 3 was when I was most frustrated with the story, so it's at my lowest. 2 is when I started seeing a lot more of the big picture of what the story is going to be and where characters were going, and that's why I had it pretty high up. So 6 for me is probably first or second.
Okay.
Right? I had second, first, fifth, fourth, third, but yeah, 6 is high up for me. I love the twist in the room where Erica reveals herself to be a killer, which is how she can use the red. I think that's, I clearly I hate them, her and Byrne. They're my top 3 dislike, but it's a good villain. It's a character you love to hate, which requires compelling writing and good characterization, which I think they have achieved with her. And just getting more of Battler, who, sure, we could say he's not competent, but he's more competent now than he used to be. His continuing fatal flaw is that he wants to see the best in people, and he doesn't like having someone who he perceives to be the little guy get punched down onto. And it's been almost every episode that has been used against him. And every time he's like, well, that'll never happen again. Bro, here we are. Yes, you have.
Because he's incompetent.
I still say no. Like, there are varying degrees to it, but still no. Yeah, so it's 6 is first or second for me. It just does a lot to answer things and still leave enough of a mystery for you to solve, as evidenced by the fact that Ben and I were able to sit down and spend hours theorizing once this episode ended, which I haven't really been confident in being able to do up until this point. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it for that reason.
Ben, where did this land for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting, even with Capelli saying oh yeah, 6 had the most room for us to theorize after it, and I agree. But on the whole, I didn't find 6 all that fun.
Okay.
I didn't find 6 to be all that interesting to read. I thought the reveals were very enlightening, and that's what got me theorizing. But I didn't care about the wedding stuff. I absolutely hated the way the ring went on the finger.
Yeah, fair.
I still think that was something that should not have been in the visual novel, and I think the visual novel is worse for it. So there was a really big low there that kind of rises up there with 2 in the sense of just the overall tone shift to a tone that I didn't necessarily love. But there were some good reveals. And I think what ended up happening is I wasn't on Message Bottle 5, but my ranking is 3 at the top, then number 1, and then chapter 5, chapter 4, chapter 6, and then chapter 2.
Okay.
I continue to think chapter 3 was a brilliant piece of writing in general. I loved the story arcs that we went on to. And one of my favorite things is when they actually finish the whole epitaph of murders. We haven't been finishing them, and it makes me want to scream because I like that process of... There's a reason I play games like Clock Tower and Werewolf, is I like to see the game get narrowed down from many down to a few. And 1, 2, and 3 all did that. And then they stopped kind of following that path with 5. I don't even remember at this point. I feel like 5 is just so hard to sometimes distinguish.
Yeah, it's kind of a piece with 6 to a degree because it's all the detective arc.
Yeah, it's a detective arc, and it's also the one where you kind of watch Natsui's perspective as the person being framed for this, which I think is very interesting, and I like the way they changed it. I might switch around 4 and 5. I think 4 was also very good. I like I said, I do find them hard to kind of distinguish at this point.
That's fair.
Other than 2 just had such a different tone shift that I think that 2 is still at my bottom. Yeah, I thought it was good. I'm excited to talk about the theorizing, but I don't think 6 as a whole piece of reading did much for me.
All right, that's fair.
Was 4 the one that had all the Angie and Maria backstory?
Yes.
That's why it's slower.
Yeah.
That's why it's lower.
Yeah.
I don't care for that. I don't want to read that. Give me murders. So
Yeah, because 3 did have the finishing of the epitaph. It just did it in a kind of a separate way.
yeah, and I liked the way that they did it, which is why 3 is still the top. And I think number 1 stands on its own, just no matter how you look at it, as just such a wild... I'm going to relate it to 100 Lines Last Defense Academy.
Uh-huh.
You play through the first run through of that game, and it's this is the story. And then everything you play after that is variations on a theme.
Sure.
Where it's all variations of the story. But the story that you first experienced still stands out in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, episode 1 as a core experience is just incredible. They did such a good job without having any of the bells and whistles they added on later on, which is not everyone's cup of tea. So
was that a segue to me? Not everyone's cup of tea. So it's funny because as you were talking there, Ben, and like ranking 4 high, I was like, oh, man, really? Because that's like one of my favorites because it had so much character development in and almost no mystery. So it made sense that you turned around on that one in the end when you realized which one it was. Your least favorite character. Yeah. But I completely agree with you. 1 kind of stands alone. And so my ranking before was 1, 4, 3. No, because I changed my mind partway through our message bottle 5. My ranking before was 1, 4, 5, 3, 2. This time, so I want to put 6 in near the top because, again, I just feel like there's so much that goes on for the characters. Like, I feel like I'm learning so much more about them, or I have learned so much more about them in this episode that I've really, for the most part, enjoyed this. Completely agree with Ben about the lows on this one. I didn't need that, and honestly just kind of forget that bit happened, really.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I will say that there is some purpose to it, but yeah, it did not need to really be like that.
As graphic as it was, like, it didn't need that.
And the weird thing about it is its purpose is so hard to describe. I can't talk about why it's there without going into like at least episode 7 stuff, which is annoying.
Soon, Kyle. Soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Soon.
Is this, sorry, real quick, was that about the ring?
Yeah, the ring scene, like why it's like that.
Yeah, Erica and the ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be part of a larger conversation about like why any of this framing device of episode 6, right? Like you can have an interesting conversation about like, well, why is this structured like this? Because there's some interesting stuff happening with that.
Oh, that's interesting that you say that. Becca, I know you want to say something, so I'll let you go, and then I want to theorize on what that said.
I was just going to say we can definitely revisit this at a later date. I do think it's one of those things where it's like, yes, it's very unpleasant to read, and it is meant to be incredibly unpleasant. It is a very violent thing that we are watching, but it is one of those things where it is so pointed and the manner in which it's presented is so specific, and it's specifically Battler. So many things about it make it so that like I didn't have an issue with it. Like I accepted it as a narrative necessity, even though I didn't know there would be even further context to it. So that's encouraging to know as well that there will be further context to it later, maybe, according to Kyle, what you just said. But
I've interpreted there to be context there.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like there are certain versions of stories where I'm like, this kind of like gratuitous, implied to be sexual violence is really unnecessary. But here, I think it is pointed enough that even though there's been a lot of like weird sexual violence threatened, Battler is always the one who is usually the victim. Like, especially like earlier at the end of episode 2, is it when he's giving up and Beato is leading him around naked on a leash and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, there seems to be a point to that, is all I'm saying. But I fully understand why people would not want to read it. Like, definitely at least need a trigger warning for sure.
Yeah. And now that we've talked about it a little bit more, I'm starting to see why it could have meaning. Now that we like say that there is meaning, which I still don't know how I feel about it, but at least I'm less like appalled as I was 5 minutes ago.
Fair.
Because I do think that when you see that there is some sort of mother character to Beatrice that is like that they mentioned in that one flashback in 6, which still has not been explained.
Yes.
I think that character that is talking to Beatrice matters a whole fucking lot. And we don't know anything about them. And I want to know who they are because that could matter a lot to the scene that Battler was walked around on a leash and the scene where they forced a ring on his hand. Like, I think that those could connect.
Yeah, thank you, Becca, because I think that has recontextualized some
I agree.
stuff for me. Yeah.
But even still, there's a way to deliver that same message, that same theme, without having to get as emotionally icky.
Yes, and that is, I think, its big misstep.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes art has to be emotionally gross. Like, it has to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can, but it doesn't need to be this on-screen direct allegory to rape.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if you push that a step further, it's like advocating for censorship, which I push back against. I do think that when this stuff is done with a purpose and like with coherence, it can be a useful storytelling tool. And like not everybody has to agree either. But I do push back on, and I think maybe there's a part of me that's like, I have a little bit of a trigger response to this.
Sure.
Because I do see a lot of people online now. I feel like this is a lot of fandom discourse right now, where online fandoms tend to police a lot of media for not telling the correct messages in the correct way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it stems from people being unable to handle uncomfortable material that is very abrasive and very potent in terms of like the types of feelings it evokes, because it is so violent or transgressive. But there is value to thinking about that uncomfortability, sitting with that uncomfortability and trying to discern where it is coming from and why. And I think a lot of people just push back against it now because they're like, I don't want to be confronted with that.
Yeah. Or the conflating depiction with condoning.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree.
Depiction does not equal endorsement.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a valuable conversation to have. And I don't begrudge anybody who is uncomfortable. It is extremely uncomfortable, and totally understand why you don't want to engage with something like that. And I do think that that's why trigger warnings exist, to help people avoid material that does that to them.
And it's okay to not be able to handle it. Like, that's fine. It doesn't make anybody that can't handle a particular thing a lesser person or lesser capable being, you know? It's just, it's okay to feel the way that you feel about something and prefer to not engage with it. I think we should all have that kind of agency.
Exactly.
But the flip side of that is that I think we should also have agency to express stories with purpose. And sometimes stories are horrible. And, you know, these are real things that people go through. So I think that being able to make people feel uncomfortable is a valuable part of storytelling. One of the things that I was saying in our sidebar Discord discussion was that I engage with stories to understand a different perspective. And sometimes that perspective makes me feel really, really gross. And that needs to be okay, I think, for some people to experience that if they want to, need to, whatever the reason is.
Yeah. And again, I fully endorse saying, like, I don't want to engage with that type of material. I just think I would stop before I would say this shouldn't be in this story, is all I'm saying.
There's a question of, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because like you are increasing the discomfort. Is that maybe it could have been toned down a bit to be its same purpose? That's something we'll definitely have to talk. Well, we'll circle back to this once we get the context that I think can make this an actual discussion in episode 7. And even then, it's still going to be a lot of, that's my personal read of what this scene means. So we'll definitely have to get back to it.
Art's subjective, right?
I don't want to diminish anything y'all said, because I pretty much agree with what you all brought up. But compare, like, I want to bring it back to this story. Like, is this story better for addressing it the way that it did? Right? I struggle to say that it's justified in connecting the end of episode 3 and the end of episode 6. Right? Let's think about how this story came out in long form episodic nature. This isn't a story that is about overcoming the trauma of violence, sexual or not, emotional, familial,
to be fair, we don't know,
generational abuse. But like, is the story better for having put this on screen and saying this is who they're up against?
Yeah, I think your concerns are valid, Kelly. I really do. Again, I think this is a conversation we'll have to come back to really give it a fair shake.
We don't know what the story's really about yet. We haven't got to the end, so we don't know.
And that is unfortunately very true.
Why there's lots of killing going on, and maybe it is all about like some kind of sexual violence that occurred, and it's a revenge for that. We just don't know.
It's all hypothesis.
Yeah.
The other thing for me is I don't think that that's worse than people being like disemboweled and posed around a dining table. I don't think that that's worse than people getting their heads violently bashed in. You know what I mean? Like, we're more used to normalized violence, and like there is definitely a difference, but like it is all incredibly violent. You know what I mean? Like, it's been like this from episode 1.
I think that is a fair take as well. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, it is a violent story through and through.
Yeah.
We were ranking my so
Yeah, so I was like,
my
where were we?
ranking. So I definitely put 6 up there. I just can't decide if it's above or below 4 for me.
I'm surprised. I wouldn't have thought 6 was going to resonate with you.
Well, I do feel like I've just learned so much more about particular people but
That's
only
fair.
in like really small ways, but the small details have really expanded some characters in this for me.
6 is a hyper focus on certain elements, and so if when
Yeah.
it touches on a character that you're interested in, you get like a lot of info about them.
Like Kyrie's story, this was here, and that's been one of the most revelatory pieces of this for me, I think, so far. Understanding more about the conflict between her and Asamu. This is why I want to see more of. Well, I want to see any of Asamu, to be honest, because it's expanded on Battler's family and where he has come from, and maybe this is even why Battler has grown on me a lot as well, because I've had a lot of that context added for him specifically within episode 6, and he is our main character, so maybe that's why it comes up higher. But yeah, I can't decide between 4 and 6 as to which one is in my number 2 spot, so they'll have to take joint third, I suppose.
That's fair.
And episode 1 is, it's iconic. It just is. So it's always going to live up the top there. And the rest are just like, whatever. It's fine.
Becca, where did you land?
Okay. So I feel like this is because listening to us all talk about them and remembering what happens in which one, because honestly, until we get to these rankings, they all just kind of blur together for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But thinking about them, this is always just going to be purely vibes based, and I think contextual based on whatever we just finished reading. So there's usually a lot of recency bias. But I feel like 3 is always going to be near the top for me just because I love that as the Beato, trying the honey instead of vinegar method, throwing Battler for a loop. I love the reversal of that, and Angie blasting in at the very end always gets me. There's something special about that one, of it being like an inversion of what we've known so far and then being inverted again. And then one I've been combing through again, trying to maybe solve things. And it really did just make me appreciate how well constructed this all is, because it is the bones of the entire thing. And it is, you don't realize it the first time you're reading through it because you're just reading a story. But going back through it with a trying to solve things mindset with everything that we know up to this point, it is very much so specific about who is where at every moment, and really lays out the groundwork for this entire thing. And it's really intricate in its way. And then 6, I kind of did these in pairs. So 3 and 1 were kind of one tier. And all of these tiers are so close together. I have really been having such a great time with the entire thing that these are going to shuffle around so much because the difference is so minimal. But then on my next tier, I have 6 and 4. 4 being Angie's backstory and all of the crazy shit with the underground tunnel and the goats coming through the bars and the math to go, what is it, over 9,000?
Yeah. I love that episode so much.
The one time Kraus was the dad that stepped up,
Yep.
And episode 6, everything we just read, was so fascinating and interesting in its way and introduces so much more weird shit that I'm excited to unpack. And then 5 and 2 on the last tier. 2 mainly because it's so similar to 1, except it's the first time we meet Beato. So you would think it would be higher for me, but I feel like 3 is so much more interesting because it is that again, but with the fun inversion of Beato running this con. And then I love 5 too. I think it just pales in comparison to what 6 then does. 5 just kind of feels like a prelude to 6 with Erica's introduction and then giving us all of that context. And then 6 is hit the ground running. So yeah, they're all good. They're all really good. I don't know.
And I'll go and give mine as well since we're here. I think I said before that 6 is my favorite episode. I've kind of gone back and forth on 5 and 6. And a lot of that is because those are the first ones that I really got into separately from the anime and reading them as a visual novel. And they're kind of a pair right there. There's such a shift from the question arcs going into 5 and 6. But I really loved 6 just because it's so bombastic. It's just going all in. It's all hype and aura. It's fantastic in that regard. And it still has some of the best reveals in the story. As you said, the curious stuff. I'm a big fan of the George scene where he fights Eva. That was a callback from one of my favorite parts of the anime. and his talk with Shannon in the arbor, like there's so many really interesting bits for George in this episode, actually. But yeah, it's just full of really great reveals in terms of, like the stuff with Erica is crazy. The technicality of the red and the blue, you get to see again. Like we've gotten to the point where the red and blue are solidified enough where you can imagine how these mechanics would be playable. Like you can imagine sitting down with somebody and playing Umineko. Not that you would, because it would be insane, because like as they established, you can literally change what the reality is on the fly retroactively to try and make stuff work still. It would be insane, but you theoretically can imagine like how that actually works, and it's really cool. I agree with you. All 3 and 1 are just, they're really, really solid. I love Beatrice's character. I love her trick in 3. It's so good. It also has Eva Beatrice, which is a really fun addition to that dynamic. 1 is, of course, just iconic. It's hard not to. I feel bad putting 1 so low. Again, I think all of those first 4 are like just up there and being my favorites. 4, as I said before, I wasn't a huge fan of the Angie Maria stuff. I definitely liked it a lot more on the reread, but again, I've liked every single episode more on the reread, so it's hard to like really bump that up relative to everything else. And then 2, for kind of a similar reason, like you get like the introduction of Beatrice at the end of 1, and her character is like established of what she's doing. And then it's surprising that 2, I don't know why. Yeah, like because it should be like, Beatrice is here. We get the introduction to the Red Truth, but something about it just doesn't seem to resonate as much as the other ones did. And that might be something I have to go back and kind of examine more in the future, because there's something there that I think is interesting. Because not that it's bad, it's just like, I think something's missing the mark. And I think part of that is because, as kind of say, like episode 2 kind of bowls you over with the magic stuff. Like you're like, well, I guess Beatrice is real, because here she is, and then like she's clearly doing magic, so I guess it's real. And then 3 is kind of like okay, we'll give you the tools you need to unpack this. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, it's almost like the story is kind of tricking you too, because it's like, here's Beatrice, and I'm like, wait, so magic is real? But then it takes several more episodes to realize like what you're reading is just an interpretation, and you have to figure out the secret real thing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons to why 2 was so controversial, and then the 3 had to have that change to make things clearer, because I think the author didn't understand how much having Beatrice appear in the epilogue section made it seem like she had to exist, right? Like you kind of need the context coming from Higurashi, his previous work, where those segments were literally like a joke, right? Like they're like well, here's the cast talking about as if they're they're like actors in a play, right? And so like there's the inherent meta, this is not really happening nature of that, but it doesn't really come across as much in Umineko's first one. So yeah, it's unsurprising that people were kind of like, well, this doesn't really make a lot of sense, and why people thought Beatrice was just, why not believe that Beatrice exists? There's really not a good reason to take Balor's side other than like, witches probably don't exist in the real world, I guess. Like that's kind of the only reason to believe Balor in the first one.
Yeah, it's like witches are, but like this is a story, so okay, witches exist in this story, like that's fine.
Yeah, like yeah, sure. So yeah, really interesting hearing y'all's thoughts on this. I was definitely surprised on some of y'all's placements for these. If I had to guess going into this, I would have thought like Ben would love 6, because Ben seems to be more like the technical side of things. And I was surprised how much Hayley loved it. So yeah.
Yeah.
I understand better now that y'all talked about it, but that was my original like thinking going into episode 6 of where I thought y'all would feel about it. So
yeah, that makes sense.
As per usual, the favorite characters and episode rankings went on a bit longer than I expected. So we're actually going to split this message bottle into 2 episodes. We're going to talk about our theories in the next episode. So to wrap up this one, I'm going to go ahead and give the plot summary for all of episode 6. So if you are interested in hearing that, then go on and continue listening. And if you just want to wait until next week to hear our theories, that is fine too. Episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch, is in many ways an ending of Umineko. It is a conclusion to many characters' stories. Fru Erica, introduced as the detective in episode 5, has been defeated, and Burncastle has slunk away to go run her own game for the purposes of checking Featherine's answers. Battler and Beatrice's story, too, has come to an end, with Battler having finally been able to show Beatrice that he has reached her truth. Together with episode 5, it forms what I like to call the hints arc, not quite the answers arc, which I think better describes episode 7. Episodes 5 and 6 shine a spotlight on several key mysteries of the series, while still allowing players to have a chance to figure things out for themselves. With Battler forced to reveal part of Beatrice's heart at the end of the episode, now is the time to put forward your answer. While the why done it might be murky, and in particular how done it, however, might be murkier still, readers entering episode 7 without at least a properly considered whodunit in mind are doing themselves a disservice. With that goal in mind, and our eyes open to the hints we now know this episode must contain, let us take a look back on episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch. Our story resumes in the Great Cathedral of Witches. In a flash forward, we see the beginning of the sham wedding between Battler and Erica that is being used to steal the title of Territory Lord from the comatose Battler, still trapped in his logic error. We then find ourselves in the perspective of Battler, trapped in that dark guest room. Either due to having gone mad or as a gambit to try and find an answer from a fresh perspective, Battler seems to have no memory of why he is trapped in this room. Hayley knows that he needs to find a way out. We then suddenly return to what seems to be the real world of 1998, where Angie awakens in the sitting room of the mysterious author Hachijo Toya. Hachijo has agreed to meet with Angie because she had deduced that Hachijo was the author of several of the most highly acclaimed message bottle forgeries we now know to have been the game boards of episodes 3 through 5. Hachijo's forgeries were unique because they seemed to contain some sort of essence of the truth of what actually happened in Rokkenjiima in 1986, even though the events depicted in them were also varied. Hachijo asks Angie to read her newest manuscript, Dawn, and give her thoughts. When Angie remembers that she never did actually get a chance to meet Hachijo before she headed to Rokkenjiima and entered Beatrice's game, Hachijo reveals that she is in fact the Witch of Theater-going Featherine Augustus Aurora. With Battler now the game master, she needs Angie to become her new reader so that she can continue to participate in Beatrice's game. Luckily, this also means that Angie, too, will be able to view this, the 6th game. In the Witch's smoking room, almost everyone has gathered in anticipation of the beginning of Battler's game. However, when Beatrice arrives and seems to be speaking and acting like a polite young woman, everyone is immediately suspicious. Battler then arrives and scolds Beatrice for leaving her room and for calling him father. After reassuring everyone this has nothing to do with them, he begins the game. Back in the realm of theater-going, Angie and Featherine discuss this strange new Beatrice and the nature of pieces. Unlike most pieces, which can be revived endlessly but are mere puppets of the game master, it would seem that Battler has instead recreated the conditions that created Beatrice as an incarnation of this game's rules. However, despite having revived and inheriting Beatrice's soul, this chick Beatrice, having none of those memories, is undoubtedly a different person now. In the magical version of Kinzo's study, Battler puts the finishing touches on the 6th game, opining about the difficulty of making the inner and outer sides of the story match. Genji tells Battler that Beatrice too was always worried about creating logic errors in her tales, contradictions that would destroy the game board if unresolved. When Genji informs Battler that Beatrice is finally awakened after being reformed, Battler rushes off to Kuadorian to see her. On seeing how much Battler's opinion of Beatrice seems to have changed after his revelation at the end of the last game, Angie wonders what the supposed sin of Battler's could have been to cause all this. When Battler arrives at Kuadorian and begins apologizing to Beatrice, though, he discovers that she is not the same as she used to be. This Beatrice, who says that she was born for his sake, has none of the previous Beatrice's memories, much to Battler's despair. Back in the human world, the obscenely pretentious Hachijo stops to make sure that Angie understands how the same human can become endlessly different people depending on the life they live. If Hachijo had in fact reached the truth that she claimed, is her ability to now make endless new tales what the cat box and being an endless witch really mean? Back in Kinzo's study, Battler uses the powers of the game master to puppet a peace Beatrice to act as she used to. But of course, it is empty and meaningless without another real person to interact with. Battler laments that he can't make himself accept the reborn Beatrice because she looks the same, despite being a different person. We then finally return to the game board proper. On the morning of October 4th, everyone on Rokkenjiima is preparing for the family conference. In the guest house, Shannon and Cannon discuss the state of their love lives. Despite having brutally refused Jessica's advances after the school festival, Cannon still clearly has deep feelings for her and is trying to repress them. Shannon, however, plans to accept George's proposal tonight, even though she is furniture and their love is impossible. Shannon tells Cannon that he too has the right to love, but if George does indeed propose tonight, she will accept and leave this island forever. If Cannon's feelings for Jessica are as strong as hers are for George, then they will both need to fight for their love, even if their success comes at the cost of the other's chance at happiness. Having decided to start truly living, Cannon pulls Jessica aside after everyone arrives on the island so he can tell her his feelings and give her his true name, Yoshia. Watching on from afar, Chick Beatrice laments that her and father's relationship is so complicated and wonders what she can do to fulfill her purpose of being useful to him. From the realm of spectating, Angie pities them both and wonders what could have occurred on those 1,000 years to change her so. However, as Featherine says, for higher beings, the concept of time becomes increasingly vague. 6 years can become 1,000. But as Angie says, Battler having been gone that entire time, how could he be responsible for Beatrice's hatred? In Kuadorian, Kumasawa finds Chick Beatrice contemplating who she really is. While she may be Beatrice, she is not the Beatrice Father wants her to be. When Chick Beatrice insists that she will become the golden witch that Father desires, Kumasawa transforms into Virgilia and offers to guide her. Featherine grants Chick Beatrice access to her study and the ability to review the archives of her past so that she might find herself and weave together the old tale with the new. As the typhoon fully settles on Rokkenjiima and seals it off from the outside world, a half-drowned Furuto Erika pulls herself up from the waves. After being welcomed in as a guest, Erika quickly outwears her welcome through lording her intelligence over everyone else in an impromptu puzzle contest after dinner. The cheese-cutting puzzle in particular reminds us all to double-check what was actually stated versus what we are assuming. Back in the logic error, Battler continues to unsuccessfully try and find a way out of the dark room. His finger seems to be bitten off by some malevolent external entity, implying this may be taking place at the time of the exchange of rings we see later. In the entryway, Erika and the cousins step in front of Beatrice's portrait. After Erika belittles Shannon and Jessica's claims of the witch's curse and angers Maria, they all leave for the guest house. Once they are gone, Chick Beatrice appears and, staring up at the nearly identical image of herself in the portrait, wonders why that Beatrice had come to torment Battler, even though she too had been born for his sake. Touching the portrait, she is sucked into the portal into the past, to the moment when the original Chick Beatrice had been born into this world. There she meets a second Beatrice, who claims to have existed long before Chick Beatrice, and seems to much more accurately fit the description of an arrogant witch and master of Rokkenjiima's night. Not understanding why, the two of them somehow know that they must become one in order to be whole. Beatrice the Elder explains to Chick Beatrice how the anti-magic toxin works, and how they must rebuild their magic by convincing people of their existence through minor pranks. And they're all spectating. Featherine and Angie comment about how decorating the process is one of the foundations of Beatrice's magic. Angie speculates that Beatrice is merely the manifestation of this environment of ghost stories, and someone later used it as a cover for the crimes of 1986. However, Featherine suspects that while that may have initially been the case, Beatrice became much more than that at some point between then and now. In the guest house lobby, Maria and Erica get into a fight over Beatrice's existence. The conflict escalates into the meta world, and Erica interrogates Maria about her claim to have seen Beatrice perform magic to summon a candy from an overturned cup. After Erica, who has gone batshit crazy, performs the sleight of hand herself to show it was possible for a human, Maria is forced to retreat. Disgusted by Erica's behavior, everyone leaves to go play cards in the cousin's room, while Erica quizzes Kumasawa of the ghost stories of Rokkenjiima and the Witch of the Forest. Later that evening, George meets up with Shannon under the Rose Garden Arbor so that George can propose. However, before he does so, he wants Shannon to know of his shameful past that led him to start their relationship. George admits that 6 years ago, he had been jealous that Shannon had more enjoyed spending time with Battler, and so endeavored to make Shannon fall for him instead. Shannon assures him that things of the past aren't important. What matters is how they feel about each other now, and their determination to stand against any fate which attempts to get in the way of their future together. Just then, we cut to Purgatorio, where Erica is growing impatient for the murders to start. Battler pities her for her inability to appreciate love that isn't guaranteed to her by a witch's red truth. Erica wonders what this truth Battler could have uncovered is to change his emotions towards Beatrice and her game so much. Back on the game board, Shannon returns to the servant's room and continues her discussion with Cannon about their ongoing contest of love. Each retrieves their half of the magical golden butterfly brooch that together would allow just one piece of furniture to successfully find love with a human. The two Beatrices appear in the meta world and confirm that this is indeed the same brooch that Beatrice had given Shannon long ago, as payment for her destroying the shrine that had been limiting her powers. In the guest house lobby, Kumasawa tells Erica about how a purple lightning bolt had destroyed the shrine and about the weaknesses of the evil spirits of Rokkenjiima to spiderwebs, which for some reason Beatrice also shares. The two Beatrices, which have been listening in for the meta world, to attempt to test Chick Beatrice to see if she has any of the weaknesses that Beatrice the Elder has to spiderwebs and anti-magic charms. Chick Beatrice has none, almost as if she's just a normal human. And while she can perform no magic, Beatrice the Elder, who has no body, can. They each have something the other lacks, and would someday become a single complete whole. Back in the logic error, Battler continues to run headfirst into every restriction that had been placed into that locked room. All he could do is beg for someone to come save him. In the cousin's room, Cannon joins them to play cards. Trying to throw off his mantle of furniture, Cannon is finally trying to learn and grow as a person and experience new things. Out in the hall, Jessica encourages Cannon, and he apologizes for burdening her with his own insecurities, while he's still trying to become human. Jessica doesn't understand what Cannon means, but he says that no matter how much Jessica might insist that he is human, the miracle of magic would be required for them to be together. In the realm of spectating, Angie is likewise confused as to what is actually preventing Shannon or Cannon's relationships. Why is a miracle necessary, and why can only one of the two couples receive it? In the Golden Land, the two Beatrices discuss how the butterfly brooch gives one who believes in it the power to believe their love might succeed. Having come to some kind of revelation, Chick Beatrice performs the candy summoning spell that Maria and Erica had fought over and creates a single golden rose petal in an overturned cup. Asking her sister if this counts as magic, Beatrice the Elder cackles and confirms in gold, used magic to create a golden flower petal inside an overturned cup. It was a splendid bit of magic. Angie says that while she understands this magic and how without love it cannot be seen, she still doesn't understand why the butterfly brooch is needed. All Featherine says for now is that love and marriage are very different things. The magic that Shannon and Cannon seem to be seeking is not merely belief or sleight of hand, but something much more substantial. We once again return to the meta-world version of Kinzo's, now Battler's, study. Kumasawa and Chick Beatrice attempt to lift Battler's spirits by bringing him homemade cookies. However, this only upsets Battler, who is yet to reconcile with the loss of old Beatrice. In the realm of spectating, Angie summons Chick Beatrice to ask her about her feelings towards Battler. It's almost as if loving and wanting to be loved by Battler was the purpose for which this piece was created. But why would the original Beatrice have created such a piece of herself that could never bring that love back to her, even if the piece was successful? Back in his study, Battler creates an illusion of the old Beatrice and uses his conversation with her to confront his regrets. Deciding to think of this new Beatrice as a daughter that she had left behind after her passing, Battler finally manages to accept new Beatrice as her own person. We then find ourselves in the realm of the twin demons of love, Zephyr and Furfur, where George, Jessica, Shannon, and Cannon have been gathered by the magic of the butterfly brooch. Zephyr and Furfur explain that only one pair of lovers can receive the miracle of magic, and the trial of love will occur to determine which pair it will be. The two Beatrices are also summoned, and Beatrice the Elder explains to the confused Jessica and Chick Beatrice how the loves of both pairs are fated to fail because furniture is not allowed to know love. The Zephyr and Furfur's magic would allow even one of those loves to succeed is a miracle. Also, it would seem that Chick Beatrice and Battler's relationship is likewise doomed, and so she too can participate in this trial to win that miracle. With all three teams now ready, the trial of lovers begins. In the guest house, Erica laments that Battler has used his powers as the game master to remove all duct tape sticky enough for her to make her signature seals. With nothing to do before the crimes start, Delanar asks Erica why she hates magic, and Erica tells her of how love had once blinded her to the reality of being cheated on. Clearly traumatized by the experience, Erica could no longer trust any statement of love not made in red. In the rainy night under the eaves of the guest house, George informs Eva of his engagement to Shannon. Eva says that she still wants to guide George down the right path, but George accuses her of using his life as a tool to achieve her own social and financial ends. George then attempts to attack his mother, but she transforms into the witch Eva Beatrice. Taking advantage of the magical protections and empowerment of his contract with Zephyr and Furfur offer, George strikes Eva down and has Gap move her body to the VIP room. In the hall of the mansion, Kyrie is taking a break from the family conference that's continued late into the night. Jessica, who had been wandering the mansion with the intent to target the first person she encountered, joined her in conversation after finding herself emotionally unprepared to kill this piece of her aunt on such short notice. Kyrie explains to Jessica the hell of leaving love unharvested and allowing it to be stolen from you. Angie in the realm of spectating confirms from having read Kyrie's diaries after her death the immense pain and hatred that Kyrie had felt towards Osamu and by proxy, Battler, stealing Rudolph away from her. Kyrie goes on to tell Jessica about how she and Osamu had gotten pregnant at the same time, but because Osamu had gone straight to Rudolph with the news, she had been able to marry him before Kyrie had even realized she was pregnant. When the two of them miraculously had the same due date, Kyrie lost everything when her child had been stillborn and Osamu had given birth to Battler. It was only because of her absolute certain willpower that she had managed to free herself from that hell after 18 years. After finally deciding to kill Osamu herself, by a miracle, Osamu had died without Kyrie having to get her own hands dirty. As Kyrie turns to leave, Jessica, having been galvanized by Kyrie's warning, attempts to strike her down. While Kyrie is able to evade for a time, having suspected Jessica's ill intentions from the start, Jessica, empowered by Zephyr and Furfur's magic, cannot be stopped. After summoning Leviathan of Envy to assist her, Kyrie attempts to flee into a locked room, but is burned alive when Jessica mentally constructs a valid locked room murder method. Leaving Ronaway to clean up the mess, Jessica returns to Zephyr and Furfur's realm and cleaves to Cannon, sobbing. With her trial complete, Shannon, Cannon, and Beatrice all accidentally end up volunteering to go next simultaneously. In the parlor, Rosa is likewise taking a break from the family conference. She thinks back on the difficulties and occasional benefits of being so much younger than her siblings. Cannon somehow sneaks up on her and commiserates with her on the difficulties of love. While Rosa had been abandoned to raise Maria alone and saddled with debt, she still couldn't fully admit to herself that it had all been a swindle. While Curia's hell had ended after 18 years, Rosa had only been going for 9 years. However, there's no hope for a happy ending for her. Carrying the rotting seed of love in your heart is the most torturous toxin in existence, for both humans and witches alike. Chick Beatrice understands that she must either kill that seed of love for Battler in her heart, or make it bud, but to let it rot would surely torment her for all eternity. Cannon quickly ends Rosa's life, but he is immediately then attacked by a furious Maria. With her diplomatic immunity, Cannon is unable to harm her, but luckily Shannon steps in and uses her shield to crush Maria as her own target in the trial. Meanwhile, Chick Beatrice has chosen Natsuhi as her own target, believing that she may in fact have harmed Battler as a baby if his claim of being the man from 19 years ago in the previous game was true. Chick Beatrice attempts to throttle Natsuhi with magic, but is thrown back when she accidentally looks at the spiritual mirror Natsuhi had been reminiscing over. Natsuhi nearly manages to defeat Chick Beatrice, but Battler steps in and has Lucifer of Pride strike her down. Battler apologizes to Chick Beatrice for the way that he had been treating her, and he joins the love trial claiming to have already taken care of his target. Back in the real world, Angie discusses the story so far with Hachijo and its themes of love and trials. While frustrated by Hachijo's refusal to speak plainly, Angie must admit that she had clearly reached some kind of truth and thus become an endless witch herself. In the meta-world, Erica tells Battler that she will not be making a detective's proclamation this game. Because of her embarrassing failure to secure a win in the previous game, Bernkastle is forcing Erica to fight this battle at a disadvantage, and with her life on the line. Back on the game board, Erica is woken at 1 a.m. by George and Jessica looking for Battler and Maria. Erica dashes off into the mansion, where she immediately runs into Goda, who had just discovered the crime. In Purgatorio, Battler lays out the facts of the case. After everyone didn't come back from the break, those who returned broke into the parlor and discovered Rosa and Maria's bodies. They then eventually found Natsuhi, Kyria, and Eva, all dead in the rooms the magic scenes showed them to be laid to rest in. Finally, they find one guest room that is locked, and breaking in, find Battler himself dead in the bed. When Erica makes a comment about how the very nature of the game, all murders must have a human method and culprit, Angie thinks back to when she had tried to have the Seven Sisters of Purgatory kill her classmates for her. She realizes now that only if she'd actually killed everyone could she then have decorated the process to make the Seven Sisters be the ones who did the killing. Because Erica had understood this truth about magic from the start, she had never been at risk of falling to the witch's illusion. Once this rule of the game is seen through, victory by the human side is inevitable as more and more hints pile up. So why then did Beatrice prolong this game against Battler until her loss was all but guaranteed? Taking advantage of the chaos, Erica quickly visits each crime scene to examine the corpses and confirm the locked room status of each room. In the witch's smoking room, Bernkastle and Lambda Delta drop hints to each other of their own knowledge of what has actually transpired. In Purgatorio, Battler and Erica's battle of red and blue truths begins, and Erica gathers some basic confirmations about the nature of the locked rooms and the innocence of those who discovered the bodies. All the survivors then gather in the guest house. Rudolph, who had lost both his wife and son, is especially distraught as he would never be able to tell them the truth. After attempting to interrogate Goda and Genji about how the perpetrator entered and wasn't discovered, Erika steps in and takes control of the situation. Erika begins by convincing Rudolph and Hideyoshi that the servants are the most suspicious party, and convinces them to split everyone up and keep an eye on them in 2 separate rooms upstairs. In the meta world, Chick Beatrice asks Battler how it feels to play from the witch's side, and he says that he hadn't realized how fragile the witch's illusions were. Even though every game board was another round of Russian roulette, Beatrice stretched those games out, believing that Battler would eventually figure it all out. Chick Beatrice asks Battler what exactly it was that he had figured out at the end of the last game, but Battler refuses to say, saying that he is still holding on hope that she might remember that herself. She then asks him what he thinks will happen to her and this world when the game ends, and Battler isn't sure. However, now that he fully understands magic, he is certain that he will be able to carry her off this game board, as he believed her past self wished him to. In the witch's smoking room, Erika reports to Berncastle the result of her opening exchange of truths with Battler, and Berncastle belittles Erika for failing to get anything more than what Battler wanted to give her. Berncastle sees that Battler had truly managed to win in the previous game, and this game now was merely his victory lap, and Erika's punishment. Battler appears and cuts in to defend Erika. With Berncastle unwilling to let Erika use the detective's proclamation, Battler, in an attempt to make the game fair, grants Erika 3 rooms worth of duct tape seals and the ability to apply them retroactively. Once Battler leaves, though, Erika reveals that the whole scene had been an act, designed to trick Battler into taking pity on her. Delon laments that Battler's foolish arrogance would likely prove fatal. Back in Zephyr for First Realm, with all pairs of lovers having successfully completed their first trial, in the second round, they would have to choose one pair to sacrifice. Jessica and Chick Beatrice wish that there was some way for all of them to find happiness, but as Battler says, that would only be possible by entering the Golden Land, which, like heaven or hell, is not of this world. While Zephyr and Furfur have made it so that all participants are perfectly equally powerful, they leave the method of determining the sacrifices up to the participants. Back in the guest house lobby, Erika continues to sow distrust in the servants, and ropes Kraus in as well. Erika convinces them to split everyone into 2 rooms. Kraus, Rudolph, Jessica, Genji, Kanon, and Goda in the cousins' room, and Hideyoshi, George, Shannon, Kumasawa, Dr. Nanjo, and Erika in the next room over. Erika then tricks Hideyoshi into allowing her to leave the room, and Erika is able to sneak off unsupervised. Erika immediately has Battler specify the locations of all bodies in red, which he does so. However, while the request for the next room over specified the exact people in the room, for the cousins' room, she has him say that it contains everyone else, in order to prevent any unspecified person from hiding somewhere else on the island. With everyone's locations now seemingly locked in, Erika then uses 2 rooms worth of duct tape seals to completely seal both the cousins' room and the next room over, preventing anyone from escaping without her knowing so. As Erika leaves the guest house to head to the mansion, she finds a letter from the witch. Pausing the game, Erika reports to Battler that she had retroactively used the last of her duct tape seal allotment on his guest room before she had left the mansion. Given that this means a play-acting Battler would no longer be able to leave the room and place this letter without breaking the seals, Erika wanted to give Battler a chance to revise the tale. After all, if that had been his plan, he would now be at risk of creating a logic error if he didn't come up with another way for this letter to have appeared here. In the realm of spectating, Feathering clarifies to Angie that a logic error occurs when the witch side continues to claim a magical outcome when they no longer have a valid human method of achieving it. She explains that there are 2 kinds of magic: filling the unobserved with lies, and decorating the process of real human tricks. Since the outcome, the letter existing, has already been observed, by the rules of the game, Battler must have a valid way for it to have been placed. To use the red to deny the actual truth of what happened would destroy the game board. However, the game master is able to freely change exactly what trick was actually used, so long as it doesn't contradict standing red truths or observations. A logic error only forms when the game master fails to come up with a valid new trick. Battler refuses Erika's offer to retcon the placing of the letter, knowing that doing so would confirm to Erika that he had been planning to have his piece playing dead to be the explanation for most of his tricks. Instead, he decides to let the story continue and figure out a better trick later to patch the hole in the logic. Erika immediately heads to Battler's guest room in the mansion to verify the seals. After some deliberation, Battler allows her to see that the seals are indeed unbroken. Breaking the seal herself and entering the dark room, Erika pauses the game to lay out the rules for this final confrontation. Erika admits that her true goal in this game was to force Battler to create a logic error. Lambda Delta is brought in as an impartial third party in order to verify whether or not Battler is cheating. All moves from this point forward would happen at the same time, with both sides able to freely use retroactive moves. Erika's first move is to verify that Battler's corpse is no longer on the bed. After verifying that no hidden doors or hiding places that Erika cannot find exist in this room, Erika confirms that Battler is not in the main bedroom. However, when she goes to search the bathroom, she's hit in the face by a spray of boiling hot water from a trap that had been rigged in the bathtub. After disabling the trap, she is finally able to search the bathroom, and likewise finds it empty. With the bedroom and the bathroom searched, the only place Battler could still be hiding was the closet. However, Battler gives the red that Ashurmia Battler does not exist within the guest room. There are no exceptions, including the closet. From the realm of spectating, Angie suspects that Battler must have used the distraction created for the trap in the bathroom to sneak out the closet and then out of the room. However, Erica declares a retroactive move that after she had entered the guest room, she had repaired the chain lock using duct tape to once again seal the room. Chick Beatrice tries to object that Erica's out of duct tape seals, but Delta overrules her, reminding them that Erica's seals were limited by the room, not by the amount of tape. Erica presses Battler to specify if the repaired chain lock seal is still intact and set or not. Having already declared in red that Battler is no longer in the guest room, this seems to be the only valid option. However, confirming so would basically be the same as conceding the whole game. Instead, Battler declares in red the lock caused by the chain is intact. Erica immediately files a motion for a logic error, but Lambda Delta confirms that Battler's logic is valid. With none of the other victims of the first Twilight truly confirmed to be dead, any one of them could swap with Battler, relock the door, and then hide in a closet in his place. However, Delano suddenly cuts in with the red truth and specifies that each and every one of those potential rescuers is unable to save Battler. Beatrice tries to object. How can Delano be using red truth about something other than the seals? However, Berncastle overrules. There are certain actions permissible only to humans without the detective's authority that can create a truth of such overwhelming credibility that they cannot be denied. On hearing about the crimes, Erica had immediately rushed to each crime scene and decapitated each and every supposed victim. And having done so, she could confirm that all 5 of them had been alive at the time. It was only because of this devil that a simple prank had become a case of genuine murder. With those 5 no longer able to rescue him, Battler was now once again obligated to provide a way that he could have escaped the room. Beatrice reminds him that there are still 11 more people in the guest house who can help. But Erica quickly has Gertrude and Cornelia confirm in red neither of the seals of the doors to the cousin's room or the next room over had been broken. Lansdale tells Battler that while he does have endless time to choose, he must either come up with a new trick or admit to the logic error and let the game board be destroyed. Until he makes that choice, his mind would be sealed up inside of that guest room all alone. Lambda Delta, herself a survivor of just such a scenario, still occasionally wonders if she is still stuck in that hell, and only in her insanity, imagining talking to everyone even now. As everyone slowly vanishes, Battler's left all alone, in the dark, cold, silent guest room, to figure out some way of escaping. Back in the witch's smoking room, Battler's been reduced to a near catatonic state. With Berncastle and Erica already gone, Chick Beatrice begs Lambda Delta to stay, as they will surely be able to start the game again shortly. However, Lambda Delta says that of the many witches whose fragments they've left in a similar state in their wake, none have ever managed to resume their games. Lambda Delta does, however, offer Beatrice the gift of hope. As long as she holds onto her certainty that they will find an answer, her wish would definitely eventually come true. After all, the old Beatrice, the Endless Witch, had been an avid reader of detective novels and seemingly impossible crimes. She had hit upon the ultimate single origin trick and used it to form the core of her magic system. In the name of the Witch of Certainty, Lambda Delta, she can guarantee that the old Beatrice would have been able to solve this locked room trick. And with that, Lambda Delta 2 leaves. And so, just as the opposite of the previous game, Beatrice is left to watch over a catatonic Battler till either of them can solve that mystery. Back in the realm of Separ and Furfur, the 2 demons announce that Battler and Beatrice have dropped out of the contest. With the 3-way deadlock resolved, Shannon and Cannon have requested that they be allowed to duel each other. Both Beatrices work together to try and solve Battler's locked room, and Separ and Furfur agree that the 2 of them can save Battler if they have the miracle of love on their side. Angie, in both the realm of spectating and Hachijo's parlor, is confused as to how love could resolve a locked room mystery. But both Featherine and Hachijo tell her that she too must think. In the Witch's Cathedral, Lambda Delta congratulates Erica on her victory. Erica asks her about Berncastle's time trapped in a logic error, and Lambda Delta tells her how Berncastle had been forced to search endlessly for a random solution to a game with no purpose. While she had eventually been able to escape that hell of random chance, it had broken her. Berncastle then arrives, and on hearing that they had been discussing her past, threatens to kill Erica if she ever brings it up again. Regardless, Berncastle gives Erica 2 presents for her victory. 1, she would be acknowledged as a true witch, no longer just a temporary witch of truth. And 2, she would be allowed to marry Battler, and through the exchange of rings, steal his title of territory lord of this fragment. Back in Separ and Furfur's realm, Beatrice continues to try and solve Battler's logic error. Unless he is freed, he'll be unable to dissolve the marriage contract being enforced upon him by the great witches of the Senate. Beatrice the Elder besieges Separ and Furfur for hints, but all they say is that they are constantly giving hints. Without love, they cannot be seen. Though perhaps by staying and spectating the fight between the remaining lovers, they can learn something of the love they need. Shannon and Cannon are ready to begin their duel in the Golden Land. They take 19 steps, the same age as the true territory lord of this world, and the number of years leading up to this day. As Shannon and Cannon stand back to back, they give thanks to one another and lament the circumstances of their birth, their father's sin. Let him die, let them all die, and when they do, very soon, they will all then revive and be freed from their cages. Today, October 5th, 1986, is the fated day that one or perhaps even both of them will die. But even then, their love will surely be made complete. To each of them, the other is just in the way. But why then must this day come for this pair, wanted not by romantic love, but almost as that of real siblings? We then return to the Witch's Cathedral for the wedding between Battler and Erica. Ronove, Virgilia, and Gap are all in attendance, hoping that Beatrice will make it in time. Gap confronts Delanor about how the state of the window seals had not been specified, and therefore Cannon could have escaped the cousin's room and saved Battler. This causes Delanor to respond with the red that those window seals were intact. which she had been saving, hoping to lure Beatrice into a trap. Gap, not missing Delanor's misdirection, notes that the still leaves the seals of the windows of the next room over unspecified. However, Delanor abuses administrative red tape to prevent that argument from being made, and Gap is hauled away by security. In the realm of spectating, Angie is furious at what seems to be the correct answer is not being allowed to be argued. But as Feathering notes, this must mean that there exists a different valid answer, and she suspects that whoever is burdened with explaining that mystery will lose the game. For Battler to shift that responsibility onto Erica might require him to reveal part of Beatrice's heart. Very soon, the greatest mystery of this tale is likely to be revealed. The bride and groom then arrive and make their way down the aisle. Broadcast and Lambda Delta watch on from the balcony, certain that Beatrice will eventually make her appearance. While Lambda Delta can confirm that there does exist a method by which Battler can escape that guest room, Broadcastle bets that Battler will be unwilling to use a move that exposes Beatrice's heart. In a scene that is clearly meant to evoke sexual assault, Erica forces onto Battler's finger her diamond ring of dominance that would seal away his heart and soul and turn him into her puppet. Erica offers to let Battler swear himself to her instead, but Battler chooses to use the last of his strength to tell Erica that he will never forgive her for defiling Beatrice's ring. Back in the Golden Land, Shannon and Cannon's duel is about to commence. Chick Beatrice still can't understand why any of this is necessary. Aren't two people who love each other enough? Zephyr and Furfur agree, and that is why this duel is necessary, to bring the number of people to 2. Beatrice asks if this is because furniture don't count as a whole person. When two people are in love, the circumstances don't matter. But Zephyr and Furfur disagree. There are many circumstances that forbid romantic love. Shannon, Cannon, and even Chick Beatrice are all subhuman beings who do not possess a full person's soul. And that is the purpose of Zephyr and Furfur's trial, to allow these sinful souls who pretend to have the right to know love, to regain the soul of a whole person and become capable of true love. The duel then begins, and after some struggle, it is Shannon who is victorious. Back in the guest house, Cannon begins bleeding from an invisible head wound and dies. Zephyr and Furfur call forth the miracle of love. Both Cannon and Chick Beatrice's bodies begin to dissolve into gold to grant Shannon her human soul. As Chick Beatrice's form continues to dissolve, she wonders why it is that she loves Battler so. We see what seems to be some kind of flashback of Battler as a child, describing his ideal woman, and then a voice tells Beatrice they are giving her their love for Battler, and that she must love him in their stead. Outside the guest house, Cannon and Chick Beatrice reform as spirits. Seeing Jessica's sadness at his passing, Cannon laments that this is his sin. This is why furniture isn't supposed to love. When Beatrice says that she still needs to save Battler, Cannon offers to rescue him. However, she would still need to figure out a way for Cannon to have escaped the cousin's room without breaking Erica's seals. Cannon tells Beatrice that instead of trying to solve their puzzles, a witch's job is to present impossible puzzles of their own. And then Beatrice begins to remember. Back in the witch's cathedral, the marriage ceremony has ended, and the reception has begun. Delanor is alerted that there has been a disturbance on the game board, and Lambda Delta receives an unmarked letter clearly from Beatrice. The lights suddenly go out, and when they come back up, in a swirl of golden butterflies, Beatrice appears. With the help of all of her allies, Beatrice manages to approach Erica and challenge her to a duel. Unable to resist Beatrice's challenge of an absolutely unsolvable locked room, Erica, the detective, accepts. Back on the game board, we see the ghostly Cannon rush to Battler's guest room while thinking about his time working for the Ashirmia family. Cannon wakes Battler, who had collapsed after spending an unimaginable amount of time trying everything possible to escape the closed room, and tells him that he can now leave. Battler's hesitant to let Cannon take his place, trapped in this room, but Cannon reminds him that he has someone waiting for him. And so Battler escapes the guest room while Cannon stays and resolves the logic error and repays his debt to Beatrice for helping him to know love. Back in the Witch's Cathedral, Zephyr and Furfur outfit Beatrice and Erica with magical dueling pistols that shoot truth. Having read Beatrice's letter containing her solution, Lambda Delta can confirm that the logic error has been resolved. The witch's side now claims that Cannon used magic to escape the cousin's room without breaking the seals, and then used magic again to allow Battler to escape. After some quick clarifications of the facts, the duel begins. Erica reasons the only way to rescue Battler is for Cannon to have replaced Battler and then hidden in the closet. With the seals in the cousin's room guaranteed, it's impossible for Cannon to actually have escaped from there. The real question is, how did Cannon avoid being sealed inside that room in the first place? Erica surmises that Cannon's real name must be the same as someone in the next room over. That way, when she specified those names, Cannon would have automatically been counted for, and not included in the everyone else. After her gun backfires, and she has Delanor remove the restriction on arguments including the window seal, both sides are ready to fire their truths. However, Beatrice easily cuts down Erica's theory by specifying the exact names and numbers of all of those who were in the next room over. While that could have been the end had Beatrice decided to shoot true, she decides to allow Erica to also challenge Battler's escape from the guest room. Erica once again returns to her reasoning space to construct her theory. After soliciting numerous additional red truths to eliminate all other options, Erica decides that the only thing possible is that Cannon replaced Battler in the closet after he escaped while she was distracted from the water trap. However, just before she commits to that answer, she realizes that Cannon could have hidden under the bed instead. Through this discovery, Erica realizes that, with a broader perspective, sometimes there can actually be more than one valid truth. For the first time, Erica feels honored to have been able to participate as a human in this game of truth against a witch, and thanks Beatrice for teaching her the true nature of this world. Announcing her victory from having seen through Beatrice's double check, Erica fires her gun. When Beatrice responds that canon does not exist in the bedroom, Erica presents the second half of her dual truth, targeting the closet as well. However, this time Beatrice shoots true. Canon does not exist in the guest room. Of course, this includes all parts of the closet, the bedroom, and the bathroom. Delano tries to intervene, but the duel is over. Beatrice has won. Battler is suddenly released from his comatose state, and Beatrice rushes to him. Battler says, "That's a nasty trick. You sure something like this counts? With a trick like this one, those humans will start complaining again about how this isn't a mystery." To which Beatrice replies, "No, it's a splendid trick that can't be seen by people without love." With Barncastle having already fled, Erica asks Battler and Beatrice for one final clash. Battler asks Beatrice if she is sure about this, and she agrees. Erica begins her final parting line from the detective, her self-introduction. "Hello and good day. Detective Furuto Erica at your service. I may be uninvited, but I hope I am not unwelcome. I am the visitor, the 18th human on Rokkenjiima." To which Battler and Beatrice reply together, "Sorry, but even if you join us all, that's only 17. Roll credits on the 6th game, Dawn of the Golden Witch. In the tea party, we return to the Witch's Cathedral, this time for the wedding of Battler and Beatrice. Beatrice says that she created this tale because she wanted to be with him. The purpose of this world has been fulfilled, and now she wants him to write the rest of their tale. With the wedding now complete, Battler and Beatrice bestow rewards to the other pairs of lovers. For Cannon, they revive him, not as furniture, but as a human. And for George and Shannon, Battler issues them a marriage certificate signed by the Territory Lord so that none could object to their union. And as Battler and Beatrice recite the final lines of the epitaph together, the tale woven by the Golden Witch comes to an end. In the realm of spectating, Angie wonders if this means that Battler has been released. However, she knows that in reality, no one came back from that accident. Featherine thanks Angie for being her Miko and releases her back to her destined fate. Back in Hachijo's parlor, she and Angie discuss and debate the truth contained within the tale. Hachijo thanks Angie for reading her work and says that she hopes that Angie will someday reach her own truth and write her own tale. Angie leaves to go and find Damakusa, who is on the phone with Okanogi, receiving his orders to make sure that Angie does not survive her visit to Rokkenjiima. In the question mark segment, Barncastle finds herself in the realm of spectating and is greeted by none other than Featherine Augustus Aurora herself. Featherine wants Barncastle, who was her previous Miko, to set up another game board so that she can check that her theories are correct. So long as Featherine can get her answers, Barncastle can create whatever kind of hate-filled game she wants. When the seagulls cried, none were left alive. And that is the end of episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch. All right. So for those of you who stuck around, thank you all for joining us. And I hope you're looking forward to next week when they will be going over their thoughts and theories of what exactly is going on in the story. And then, of course, after that, we will be then starting episode 7, which is quite a doozy. So I'll tell you exactly what the reading is in next week's episode. So thank you for joining us, and remember to think off meta.